Hi there everybody, welcome. My name's Emily Harding, or you might know me as Yin Yoga, and I'm so thrilled that you have come to join us for a Yin Yoga class today. So if you're new to Yin Yoga, you are absolutely fine. You're in safe hands. What you're going to need around you, so please do pause it or go grab these things right now. So obviously make sure you've got a mat or a towel laid down. You might want to have a couple of yoga blocks, or if you don't have a couple of yoga blocks, for Yin, a couple of books or a couple of cushions will work really well as well. You might want a blanket or a towel also. And then I have a yoga bolster, but if you don't have one at home, that's fine. Just double up on the pillows or the cushions. So make sure you have heaps of things around you that you can use to prop yourself up. This is going to be a really earthy practice, really grounding into the floor today and working with the spleen and stomach energetic pathways, meridians. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on. But I just want to say, thank you for joining us today. So give yourself permission to take this next hour super slow, super relaxed. It's all about replenishing our energy and stepping off our mats in a better state than we stepped onto them in. So if you'd like to practice with any music, please feel free to pop on some quiet, soft music in the background. Otherwise, you can join me in silence. That's absolutely fine as well. And to begin, let's just take a moment to sit and set an intention. So in Yin Yoga, we're holding poses on the floor for anywhere between 3 to 10 minutes. And I know you're thinking, oh my God, 10 minutes in one pose sounds crazy. It's something that we'll definitely work up to over time. So for now, just give yourself permission to be here. Trust in me. I've got you. We've got this. And let's begin. Oh, I've got a random bit of floor dust in my mouth. That was really awesome for my first ever YouTube video. Okay, let's go ahead and bring our hands. It's going to be one of those practices. Bring our hands into a prayer position, Anjali Mudra, in your heart center. Make sure that your phone's off. If there's people around you, just let them know that this is your time for you. So everything can and will wait, I promise. So with your eyes closed, just go ahead and start to take your attention inward. And let's set an intention for this very kind and loving practice together. So I always like to use the words, I intend to invite, followed by something positive that's going to nourish and fuel me. So it's like a loving signpost as opposed to an aim or a goal. So it's not something that we get attached to and then get attached to the result. It's just a loving signpost. So whatever that intention is, just keeping it with you through the practice. Taking the hands onto the knees, eyes stay closed. And we go into this practice with no expectations and no limitations either. So we're going to delve into the hips, opening up the whole body, and we might find or encounter some different emotions or sensations or feelings. And just know that it's all welcome here on the mat. And as the practice goes, I'll say less and less to give you an opportunity to really go inward and have your own unique experience today. So whenever you're ready, we're going to open the eyes and start to come into our first pose. So we are staying very earthed and grounded today. So it's all going to be down on the floor, which I'm sure you'll be super happy to hear. So the first pose we're going to come to is quite a basic classic pose, but the benefits are huge. So we're going to come to our caterpillar pose. So a couple of different things that you can do. One variation is just to go ahead and let yourself fold forwards here. We're not trying to hold on to the feet. So this isn't like our yang practice, like a vinyasa practice where we're straining for the feet. We're letting ourselves be really soft and still here. And you can just let yourself fold forwards. Now, if this is too much, you might want to put the hands underneath the chin If you've got any hamstring issues or any sciatica or anything like that, you might want to bring a bolster or a pillow underneath the knees, and then you can let yourself fold forwards here, let yourself be supported. Again, you can pop some cushions or anything in between here. Just make sure that you can breathe, obviously. You don't want the props to be obscuring your opportunity to breathe nice and deep. And if you find it just really hella hard to fold forwards at all, don't worry, I've got you covered as well. You might sit on one of those blocks or maybe a cushion and just let yourself be soft here. And again, if you find that the knees are going to push back out, maybe you put another cushion, a slightly smaller cushion or something underneath there. And we're just going to let ourselves fold forwards here. So we're going to spend 4 minutes in this pose. And as I said, just trust in me. I'm minding the time for you. So let's slowly start to fold ourselves forwards. Let your head be really heavy. Just allow yourself to sink and surrender into the pose. And whether you're new to Yin or whether you've been doing it for as long as you can remember, I'm going to walk you through the 3 main parts of what makes a Yin Yoga practice. So the first part of the practice is to find sensation and come to a slight edge. So we're looking for sensation in the body. And the reason we do this is because we're trying to put a little healthy stress onto the joints, the connective tissues, the fascia of the body. So this is kind of a physical focus of the practice. And what we're doing there is encouraging blood to pool in the area, or Qi, which is the name we give to energy in the Yin Yoga practice. So it's got its roots in traditional Chinese medicine. So by bringing the body into these poses of a healthy little bit of stress, we're encouraging that energy to pool in that part of the body. So you find your edge, somewhere that you can feel comfortable in, that you feel gentle sensation. And we breathe nice and deep. See if you can let yourself muscularly disengage. So it's very important not to push too far straight away, because that's where we have the other 2 parts of the practice. And if we push too far straight away, we're not going to be able to keep it as a Yin pose. So the second part is that we hold these poses in stillness. So again, disengaging, just letting the body sink and surrender into itself. And the third part is that we hold these poses for a lot longer period of time. So as opposed to sort of 3 to 5 breaths in a vinyasa class, we're here maybe for 3 to 5 minutes. And what feels good for 3 to 5 breaths might be excruciating after a minute or 2. So this is where we really start to become skillful in our practice of noticing and becoming aware of the sensations in the body, becoming aware of the ego's effect on our practice. Maybe it's trying to push us deeper by asking us to engage the muscles and squeeze forwards and make ourselves smaller or more pretzel-like, but we really don't want that in this practice. So this is a place to really get to know your ego and try to kind of have a conversation with it and notice where maybe it's pushing or pulling you into poses that actually the body doesn't really want to be. I mean, if you find it difficult to then breathe in that pose, or if you're grimacing the face, that's always quite a big one. I find if we're squeezing the face, it means we can't really relax into this pose. So let your head be really heavy and let your face be really soft, and just keep gently surrendering into the pose, and always stopping and having a quick scan and conversation with yourself, each different little part of the pose, just checking that it's still okay. It's still enjoyable. It shouldn't ever be painful. If we ever feel pain, we come out of the pose. So electrical shooting pain, any sensation of like bone on bone, immediately come out. So this is a really nurturing practice, not a practice where we're trying to push or pull ourselves into a particular shape. So that was the end of our 4 minutes. So very carefully, and feel free to close your eyes as much as you like in this practice. You really don't have to look at me. You can keep your eyes closed and breathe. So we're going to start to slowly bring ourselves up. Take your time. Come up super carefully. And just notice, just get to the top and just notice if there's any difference. Maybe the spine feels really nourished and stretched. Back of the neck as well, that nice stretch into the base of the skull. So just take a couple of deep breaths here. Again, if you were folded over and you suddenly feel a bit dizzy coming up, take your time. This is a very slow practice. And then we're going to come into our rebound pose. So we're going to go ahead and lay down into a mini Shavasana. Not mini in its size, just mini in its length of time. So you might go ahead and wiggle those shoulders underneath you. Turn the palms up to the sky. And just take a few really nice deep breaths in and out here. We're going to be here for about a minute. And the reason that a rebound pose is so important is when we put that little healthy stress on the parts of the body, and then we kind of, like if it was a hose pipe that you were twisting or bending and kind of stopping the normal circulation of blood and energy around the body, when you then open it back out, that blood, that energy can all start to rush more freely through the body, sending freshly oxygenated blood to your fascia, to the different muscles as well, and letting that chi move on where it might have been stagnated, move on to places that it might have been depleted as well. So we're looking really in our yin practice to restore the energetic levels and qualities of the body. So still just breathing really nice and deep here, strong, beautiful inhales and exhales through the nose as best you can. Don't worry about having an ujjayi breath in this practice. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to go ahead and carefully bring ourselves back up. So you can never consciously hurt yourself. It's something that my teacher once told me, and I love to share this all the time as well. So if you get up unconsciously, that's how you might hurt your neck. So be really careful and conscious about every little movement you make, even if you think it's something as basic as getting up off the floor. We've all been there, got up a little bit too fast and crick the neck a little bit, so be careful. Conscious thoughts. So let's go ahead and get onto our hands and knees. And we're going to come into our next pose. So working the spleen meridian as it runs up through the inner leg into the torso. So you're going to take your knees as wide as is comfortable. Bring the toes together. And we're going to take a wide knee child's pose or with a twist. So nice opening for the shoulders as well. So what you might do is get yourself in the child's pose first. So in child's pose, hips are as close to the heels as you can. If this isn't there for you right now, don't worry, I'm going to walk you through it. So I might get myself in my child's pose, stretch my right arm over to the side, let my head be heavy on the floor, and either let my left hand stretch out in front of me. I sometimes like to put my left hand on top of my right hand and just hold myself there. Or you might want to wrap that left hand around behind, but where you put the arm has a little slight difference in what you feel through the shoulders. So just have a little play. Now, if like me, you have old hamstring injuries and this feels very strong through the hammies, which it probably will, you can go ahead and grab your pillows or your towels or your blankets, and it's really nice to put them behind your thighs and in between your calves. So if you find that the hips are really high when you're coming into your child's pose, go ahead and pop something under there, stack as many things as you want. Everything but the kitchen sink. Kitchen sink probably wouldn't feel too great being stacked there, so make sure it's soft. And then again, you can always bring a cushion or a pillow or another blanket, or if you want to use a book, feel free to use a book. You can place that underneath your head, and then you can see now we've started to really support ourselves. I feel much more relaxed here. I feel gentle sensation that I know I can hold for these 4 minutes on each side. So I'm going to give it another 3.5 because I'm assuming that you were already in your pose whilst I was just moving around, friends. So take your time. We're twisting over to the left. Right arm is pushing away from us. And at any point, you can change the pose. You can, of course, oh, sorry, a little itch. You can, of course, take props away if you feel that you don't need them anymore. If you feel that the body is sinking and softening and it's naturally found its way to the floor, that's absolutely fine. But just allow the pose to unfold for you, as opposed to trying to control it or think, okay, well, I've got to at some point release into the floor and get my head down. Not at all, friends. This is your practice, and everybody's practice is going to look completely different, because we all look completely different. You know, no two skeletons are the same. So we've got to respect and understand that some people's bodies work in different ways. So still breathing nice and deep here. Breath is the most important part of our practice. Maybe in this practice you're using samavritti, which means equal breathing. So maybe to find that focus of the mind in this practice, you're focusing on breathing in for 4 and out for 4. Or maybe it's a bit shorter or a bit longer, whatever works for you. Just soft and smooth. So I'm going to take that off my head now and see how that feels. A little bit more pressure into the arm. And again, just noticing where in the body your breath is traveling. So our breath is really our tool with which we can start to become more aware. If it's always with us, we always have that opportunity to become aware and drop into the present moment. So you can use your breath as an incredible tool on the mat and off the mat to step into the now, to take responsibility for your actions, your thoughts, your life. So if at any point any sensation starts feeling too much, and you're going to be knowing what feels too much in your own body, if it's uncomfortable, that's okay. Stay with the discomfort. But if it's starting to feel too much, too intense, ease off, add some extra props. So being uncomfortable isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be a difficult thing to hold, for sure. And that's where Yin Yoga becomes much more of a mental-based yoga, I find. Some people really, really struggle with being still, and that's okay. We all have those days where we just can't be still, and it's just a reflection of what's going on in the mind. So if you find yourself feeling really resistant to being still, just know that that's okay. Just sit with that. It might pass, it might not, and it's okay. Just keep coming back to your breath, back to your intention. And would you know, that has been our 4 minutes. So we're going to slowly start to bring ourselves out. Take your time. Left hand comes underneath the shoulder, and carefully bring yourself up to sit. You might want to sit back on the heels, or you might want to come into a child's pose in the front. We're going to twist ourselves to the other side. So you guys can go ahead and twist. I'm going to move myself around on the mat so that I'm still talking towards you, and hopefully my speech doesn't just get really muffled, like I'm talking to you from the bottom of a bottom of a pool or something. So whenever you're ready, bring your left arm underneath you. Again, prop yourself back up. If you remember that you had a brick or a cushion underneath the head to start with, go for that. That's all good. And then, again, just let yourself really sink and soften. We're so lucky right now. Look at us. We're on the mat, breathing deep, letting the whole body soften into our wide-legged child's pose, looking to restore those energy levels. So if you find that in this asymmetric poses that it's really difficult for you to bring some sense of symmetry to the poses, don't worry about that at all. So it's okay for the poses not to be symmetrical, because your body isn't symmetrical. Now, if you think about the organs,
You don't have symmetrical organs from one side to the other. That's, we've got one heart on one side, we've got one liver. So it's crazy to expect from an asymmetrical inside to have a symmetrical outside. Just doesn't work that way. So it's okay if you need to change up the poses and add more or less from one side to the other. It's not any indication of doing it wrong or doing it badly, nothing like that. It just is what it is. Still breathing nice and deep. Giving yourself full permission to be as heavy as you can right now. Sinking deeper and deeper, and if you have any thoughts that pop up in the practice, you don't have to get pulled into them. You can sort of challenge those narratives and just kind of notice the thoughts and thank them for their presence and then let them go. Just drawing your attention back to the now, back to the sensations in the body and the breath. But our yin practice is a really good place to just allow ourselves that time to digest anything that's happened to us. And if you find any emotions that do come up in the practice, which they very often do, when we get into the connective tissues of the body and particularly the hips, there can be a release of emotions, or we can start to feel really emotional, overwhelmed without really knowing why. So it's a really safe space in which to experience these emotions because you can sit with them. You can acknowledge them and let them go without fear of acting out on them because we're doing it in the stillness. And often that time in stillness and contemplation can help to give us quite a healthy dose of perspective on whatever it was that came up. So just know that it's okay. Don't fight whatever comes up. So we're coming into our last minute on this side. So again, if there's any way that you can become like 10 or 20% more relaxed, please go for it. If you need to exit the pose early, please feel free to do so. And then whenever you're ready, let's go ahead and bring ourselves out. Take your time. Ooh, super slowly. And take the weight into your hands and gently, squeeze the knees back together. It is very normal to feel like you've aged 70 years in a yin practice when you come out of a particular pose, often in the hips. So if you're like coming up, making the sound effects like, don't worry, that's all fine. It's totally normal. You will feel bright as rain again soon, I promise. So go ahead and bring yourself down to that juicy rebound pose. Open the palms up to the sky, walk the shoulders underneath you a little bit and just relax it all down, baby. Release. Deep breaths in and out. Maybe noticing any difference in the hips and the inner groin. Do you feel a lightness there? Is it a tingling? Is it just a sense of aliveness? I think that's a word. If it's not, we're going to commit to it and hope it's a word. A sense of aliveness. Just doubling down on that. Last few deep breaths here. And slowly start to come up again. So again, be conscious, drop back into the body if the mind had wandered anywhere else. And really think about your actions as you come up. Take your time and go ahead and just swivel yourself onto your front for our next pose. We're coming into Sphinx or Seal pose. So, I'm already getting so into it. I'm already like, yeah, I'm ready for this pose. So, Sphinx or Seal pose, this is going to be totally different for you depending on the shape of your back. And everyone has super different spines. So I'm just going to walk you through a couple of them. So one thing you can do, Sphinx pose here, elbows ever so slightly just in front of your shoulders, just like 1 inch. You can bring the palms in front of you like this, or you can bring the hands together. They want to be about elbow distance apart. You can also rest with the hands on the elbow. That's all chill there as well. So from here, we look forwards, let the whole rest of the body relax, and then you can just let your belly soften into the floor. And we're really thinking, make space for all that incredible alchemy that goes on in the belly, since this is the spleen and stomach meridians where we're taking the nutrients from the outside world and it's being transformed as if by magic into our body, our lives, our experience. Make space for that alchemy. Don't think about squeezing the belly here and here. Okay, we went off on a little tangent there. So we're either in your Sphinx pose. If this is too much, you can take your elbows a little bit further so that the rib cage can take some of the weight. That can feel really nice if you're really struggling to find relaxation through the lower back. There's also, if like me, you have a really crunchy lower back, you might just want to go ahead and bring your chin onto the arms and just have a really, really just gentle back bend. Or if you've got a lot of space in your spine, you might go ahead and use, I've got a block handy here, so I'm going to use a block. You might use a block or a pillow to lift yourself up a little bit higher. But again, if you find that your spine is crunching, bone on bone, lumbar spine, vertebrae on each other, ease out of this. So it's not about getting yourself as high as possible. We're going for opening up of the front channels of the body, a little bit of gentle, healthy stress for the spine, and just really letting yourself relax here. So you can, if you need to, squeeze the thighs and the bum to take some of that weight off of the back if you're finding it crunching. But for the purposes, if we go back to the start of our yin, the things we do for yin, muscularly disengage once you found that sensation, just go ahead and walk yourself out a bit further and see how that helps. So we're either in Sphinx or we're in Seal, elbows up or hands forwards. Again, just however you feel most comfortable here, being able to soften and relax into the floor. You can look forwards or you can close the eyes down. I'm going to be here for another 3 minutes in this juicy back bend. So really just sink yourself into your Sphinx pose and see if you can find that stillness. So the stillness that we're talking about, you might find that you have an itch or you really need to fidget or move something. But this is a really great opportunity to just ask yourself, do I actually have to indulge that reaction right now? Or can it wait? It's almost a little fun game to play when you have an itch and you don't scratch it. You're proving to yourself that you are mentally so resilient and so strong, not to kind of be a slave to just reactions all the time. You can choose and learn how to responsibly respond to whatever's going on in your body or the world around you. And of course, in talking about an itch, I have now given myself an itch, which I will not scratch. I'm right there with you guys. We are going to be so strong, mentally and physically. Breathe all the way down into the belly. Just allow yourself to be aware of the sensations of the whole body. Send that breath into the belly. Make space.
Round is a shape, just like every other shape, and it's a beautiful shape. Who said that round was a lesser shape than all the other shapes? Someone told me that a few years ago, and it totally changed my life and my perspective. It gave me something to always come back to when kind of having those body image chats with myself. Round is a shape, round is a beautiful shape. Let's change that perspective of society together. It's up to us. So you've got 1 more minute in your Sphinx or your seal. If you want to explore softening into it even more, I don't want to say deepening because there seems to be a kind of a stigma of deeper is better. So if you just want to go on that adventure to somewhere different, please feel free to do so. If you need to exit the pose early, again, totally fine. Continuing to breathe deep. Can you breathe like you love yourself in this practice? Whatever that means to you. And whenever you're ready, we're going to bring ourselves out of the pose into our rebound. So the rebound we're going to take is, if you've got a cushion or a pillow handy, just pop it underneath your belly. I'm going to pop underneath my rolled up blanket just to take a little bit of the natural back bend out, and then just let yourself rest down into the floor. So it's like an upside down Shavasana, prone Shavasana. You can have the hands underneath your head, or you can like starfish it out to the side, whatever works for you, and just take a few really nice deep breaths here. Again, noticing which parts of the body are in contact with the floor, which parts of you is in contact with the earth. Okay. Oh, it would have been nice to just stay there on the front forever. You can totally come back to this at the end of the practice. It is glorious just laying on the belly, just letting it rest. So let's go ahead and bring ourselves up. Remember, move consciously. Breathe like you love yourself. Come out super duper slow. And let's go ahead and bring ourselves into the next pose. So this is a pose which so many people absolutely love. We're going to come into our swan and sleeping swan pose. So to do this, I really recommend coming into this with props. So obviously, because the body's cold, you're definitely not going to sink in maybe as deep as you might at the end of a really sweaty yang vinyasa class. So give yourself that permission to use the props and make the most of them. So get yourself a cushion or a block or a bolster or whatever it was. And to start with, we bring that left knee close towards the left wrist, and then get your left foot high-ish up on the mat. So it doesn't have to be totally parallel to the top of the mat, but what we want to look to do is avoid having the foot all the way back there. So if I'm coming into pigeon pose or swan, and I've got my foot like right back here, this is doing nothing to help me open the glutes and the hip. Instead, what I'm feeling is just putting loads of pressure on the left knee. So you kind of want to avoid that. So swing that left leg forwards, and then you can bring a block or a cushion, highly recommend, underneath the left glute, maybe at the top of the thigh. So now from here, what we want to be able to do is twist the hips down towards the front. The right leg is back behind us, toes flexing away. So have a quick check that the rest of you is in line with each other. And then from here, we can start to sit upright and stay breathing into the hip. Now I'm going to show you quickly the other variation here. So reclined swan pose. So if you came to that pose and you were finding anything going on in that knee, abort. We only get one set of knees. Be nice to your knees. So from there, you might come down to the ground and you might use your left foot onto the right thigh. So if you can get the bony part of the ankle, take the hands behind the thigh, maybe onto the knee, relax yourself down to the ground. And if you find it too difficult to hold onto the thigh here, grab yourself a tie or a belt and just go ahead and pull it round the leg so that then you can be a little bit further away even and just gently pulling it in towards you. So a little bit more gentle engagement on that side. So I'm going to come back to the other side with you, all you cool cats and kittens, and it's out of my mouth now, so that's what I said. We're coming back onto our pigeon pose side. So from here, sitting up nice and tall, breathing into the left glutes. And if you want to, you can start to slowly take your elbows down towards the ground. You might use a couple of pillows or a bolster here. But again, this is a great pose in which to notice the subtle differences from being up here. Where do you feel it? Glutes, hips, spine, inner thigh, back of the hamstring, to maybe coming down here. So here I start to feel a lot more pressure on my front knee, which doesn't feel as enjoyable. I'm feeling that pressure behind the back of my left knee and less through the glutes. So for me, I'm going to sort of skillfully decide, okay, well, I think I was enjoying the sensations and they felt more juicy, more helpful when I was a little bit higher up. So I'm going to come back up there and just sit with that. And I'm not going to let myself get frustrated thinking, oh, well, I wanted to go forwards and it didn't work out, so this is a bad time. No, there's no frustrations here. Frustration is a choice, just like everything else. If you learn how to not scratch the itch that we had in Sphinx pose, you can learn to kind of work with any emotions that arise and kind of work to let them go or pick a different one to bring in. So I'm breathing like I love myself here once more, and we're halfway into this pose. We're taking 5 minutes in our swan on the other side. So if you're not aware as to why we call the poses in Yin Yoga something different, I shall explain it for you now. So Yin is the opposite. You've heard of Yin and Yang. Yin is the cooling, the feminine, the lunar energies in this world, and Yang is its counterpart, the masculine, the warming, the solar energies. So our Yang practices are our power yoga, our Ashtanga yoga, rocket yoga, vinyasa yoga, any kind of running, weightlifting. So a lot of activity is very Yang, using up the energy. So in our Yin practice, where we're looking to restore the energy levels and do it whilst being cold in the body for the best effects on the fascia, we call the poses different names to really help ourselves mentally separate this practice from those very goal-orientated Yang practices. If we're saying, oh, it's sleeping pigeon, oh, I must pull myself down to the ground because that's what I do at the end of my vinyasa class every week. But actually, it's different. So it's we're helping ourselves to mentally remember and understand that it's a different pose. So in our swan, in our sleeping swan, different energy, different intention. So if this has gotten too intense, again, release or add some extra props if you'd prefer. And we've got 1 more minute here. We're coming into the last minute. Stay with the sensations. Again, if you want to take your adventure in a slightly different place, you can.
Just make sure you're being truthful to yourself, not letting the ego push you to the floor or cause you any injury. Still letting that belly be free. Breathe into it. Okay, let's slowly start to come out. So again, if you feel like you're suddenly aged 70 years in the hips, don't worry at all about it. I like to come out by lifting up my block out the way, swing my left hip to the floor and go ahead and swing my right leg round. And from here, just take a little rebound pose, just for a couple of breaths. You might even place your hand on the hips and just notice, does one hip feel a little bit warmer than the other, the one that you were kind of working into? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you place the hands on the belly, just reconfirming to yourself, I love this part of me. This is where the alchemy happens, the magic happens. Take a last deep breath here. And slowly release. Let's go ahead and roll ourselves up carefully and come onto the other side. So I'm going to twist this way again. Okie dokie. So our 5 minutes on the other side. Take your time. And remember what we were saying on the other side about the asymmetry of the body. So don't worry if on this side you need heaps more props or anything like that. When we go through these practices and we start to learn, which side is a bit less spacious than the other one, it helps us to make those decisions to kind of bring more balance into the body when we come to practice next time. So don't worry if you kind of find that they're totally different. So again, I get my leg up a little bit more cozy. If you were taking the variation on the floor, recline, pigeon, please jump into that again. Now from here, I'm tilting off to the right. So I want to think about sending the left hip towards the floor a little bit. So I might just move my blocker or my bolster or my cushion around a little bit more to help me to get a little bit more level here. Might let that right heel come in a little bit closer. Okay, so I've got the block a little bit more on my right thigh than my right bum cheek this time, because that's just what's helping to stop me from slide to the side. So that's fine, I'm okay with that. It's, slightly different use of the props to help us find a more similar shape. So it's all cool. So again, I'm going to breathe nice and deep into the hips here. Breathing like you love yourself. And again, maybe you're walking forwards, maybe you're coming back, and just find whatever works for you. So the mental qualities of the chi connected to spleen and stomach are quite interesting. They're quite appropriate for this time of change that's going on in the world, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this at a later date, where I'm sure much has changed since this aired as well. But when this kind of energy in our body is off, it's thought to really make us quite inflexible to change and to going with the flow. So it is definitely something good to be practicing right now, this sequence that we're doing, to help us really feel at home in ourselves, wherever we are and whatever's going on in the world around us. Because at the end of the day, change is the only constant in this world. It is the absolute one thing we can guarantee, is that things will always change. Nothing is forever. So that can be really comforting at a time like this, with the pandemic going on. It will pass, it will change, it won't be like this forever. And it's also a really good thing to remind ourselves when we start to feel too attached to an outcome or a pose or a place or time in our life. Just know that nothing stays the same forever.
And if we fight that indisputable truth, then that's when we're going to find ourselves in maybe a difficult place. So it's okay. Change is a big and good part of life. So keep breathing nice and deep. We're over halfway into this side. Keep softening, keep surrendering. Adapt however you need. Remember, we don't want any grimaces in this pose. I see a lot of my students, sometimes they're holding this pose and squeezing the face because it's got to go deep and stay deep. Relax, come back a little bit. Coming into the closing minute here. If you need to change your adventure a little bit, feel free to do so. Breathe into the glutes, breathe into the hips. Breathe into your beautiful belly. And whenever you're ready, let's go ahead and release the pose. Well done, awesome friends. Take your cushion out. Ooh, drop the hip down and go ahead and swing yourself back. Take your time. Move super, super slowly and just roll yourself down into the ground. Taking your mini Shavasana once again, letting yourself be so, so heavy. If you want to take any sort of clearing breaths, big sighs out, you can. Let it go. It can be really nice just to audibly kind of signal to yourself permission to let go. Whatever you're carrying around with you right now, whatever heavy bags you've picked up and have forgotten that you can put down, just let them go. Let it all out. From here, we're going to twist over onto our fronts and come into our final pose. So this is not so much linked to the meridians we've been working with, but it's a physical anti-desk pose, which we're all working from home right now. Super yummy, super enjoyable. So we think about taking the right arm perpendicular to the left. And from here, left hand comes underneath the left shoulder. You can pick up the left foot and roll yourself onto the side. So the right arm is out behind you. If this is too intense, you might just stay laying on your side and just a very gentle little baby roll onto the shoulder. And some people might like to bring the left hand around behind them, just touching that right arm, or maybe even holding onto the left foot to get into the left hip flexor, making sure that you feel super comfortable here. Foot can be in the sky or maybe grounding down again. But again, one of these poses is not better or worse than the other one. It's just whatever you need right now. So
Take the ego out of the equation. Find what feels good in your own body. Breathe nice and deep, and we're just staying here for literally a minute or two on each side before our final Shavasana. So just a really mindful, slow little check-in for the upper body. Noticing again where on your body you can feel the connection to the floor, that earthing, that grounding. Just remind yourself that you're safe, that you're well. Right now, do you have any problems at this exact moment in time? And whenever you're ready, let's slowly roll ourselves back onto the front. Take your time. Super slowly bring that right arm back in. If you need to shimmy around to find the space around you to take it over to the other side, please feel free to do so. And then again, we bring that right hand underneath the shoulder. We bring the right foot next to us. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle so that then I can hold on to my right foot with my right hand. If you needed to here, you can always place a pillow or something underneath the head. You can even put your other hand under there. That can be quite nice. Support yourself, always. If there's a way in which you can be more supported, please feel free to take it. Again, finding that healthy sensation. Becoming still. Muscularly disengaging. And then slowly starting to release. Bring yourself out. Well done, awesome friends. Take your time. Roll it out and then go ahead and roll yourself onto your back. You've made it to your closing Shavasana. Now, a couple of things you can do here. You can always pop a blanket underneath the hips if you find that you get real sore sacrum laying on the floor. You can also bring your bolster or your pillows, place them underneath your thighs. That can feel really awesome as well, just taking a little pressure off the spine. And then turn your feet out, turn your palms out. They're just down by your hips. Walk the shoulders underneath you for a little more natural open of the chest. Take a nice deep breath in. And exhale, side out, let it go. And just completely let go of any resistance, of any thoughts in the mind. You know, if the mind wants to wander, let it wander. Just let yourself be heavy and light. Letting the magic of your practice sink in. In a well-deserved, blissful Shavasana. Feeling the energy moving around your body, nourishing you. And just know that you've still got nowhere to be, still got nothing to do. Feeling your whole body relax from the toes, all the way up the legs, through the spine, across the shoulders, down the arms. Our jaw is relaxed, head so heavy. Space between the eyes, so soft. Tongue in the mouth, totally heavy. And whilst you stay in Shavasana, I'm just going to slowly make my way up because I'd like to read you something to leave you with today. And this is a very short passage from the book Inner Engineering by Sadhguru, and it helps us to kind of get perspective on change and being vulnerable. So if you feel a bit vulnerable at the moment, this will hopefully be words that really help you. So let's take the case of a seed. If the seed constantly tries to save itself, then a new life is impossible. The seed goes through the tremendous struggle of losing what it believes is its identity, losing its safety and integrity, and becoming vulnerable, in order to grow into a many-branched leafy tree abundant in fruit and flower. But without that vulnerability, that voluntary openness to transformation, life would not sprout. So just keep breathing, letting that sink in, just knowing that if you feel at the moment like you've cracked, just know that maybe this is the start of your transformation, blooming, growing, evolving into a totally new way of being, of living. So take a last few deep breaths here, and if you'd like to stay in Shavasana longer, please feel free to pause this video now and stay put for 5-10 more minutes. Otherwise, start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Roll over onto the right hand side. Without opening your eyes, gently start to make your way back to seated position. No need to see. Trust yourself. And bring your hands into a prayer position in your heart center. From here we bow down, thanking ourselves, our bodies and each other for stepping on the mat today, doing the work on ourselves so that then we can go out into the rest of the world and be the most joyous, loving versions of ourselves we can be. So that we have that joy and we share it with as many that we know and do not know as possible. So if you'd like to, I invite you to lift the head again, and we're going to close the practice with one Om, sound AUM, vibrational sound of the universe. So if you'd like to join in, take a nice deep breath. Don't be shy at home. We bring our hands back to our forehead as we bow down. The light in me honors the divine light in each and every single one of you. Namaste. Thank you so much wherever you are, having watched and joined in with this video. I really hope that you feel so very which is what we're all about here, feeling not meh. So if you enjoyed this practice, please do
Subscribe to this channel where you'll be finding lots more videos from me and from some of the friends of the Yeah Yoga Co as well. So I really hope that you'll join us on this journey. We're on a mission to make yoga accessible and enjoyable for everybody, so regardless of whether you've tried it before or not. So thank you so much. Please do tell your friends. Please do subscribe, and then you can also find me on Instagram. I'm Yeah Yoga, and then we also have the Yeah Yoga Co as well. So thank you so much again. I wish you a beautiful rest of your day or your night wherever you're watching this, and take care. See you again very soon. Thank you so much.